He sent me the poison? It's absurd. You must not believe that if it's true that the dead can see the truth. All right, I won't consider you dead. I won't repeat it again. She's gone into a spontaneous trance, said Mongeri into Lelio's ear. Allow me. Taking hold of her thumbs, after a few minutes he called out in a loud voice, Madam. On hearing the deep, annoyed, robust, and masculine voice with which she responded, Mongeri jumped back. Something in Louisa had risen from the grave, with such a darkened face, with such hardness in her features that she seemed another person. The special beauty of her physiognomy, so good, gentle, almost virginal, that came from the sweet gaze of her beautiful blue eyes and the light smile that roamed her lips like a delicate pulse, had completely disappeared. What do you want? Why are you meddling? Mongeri regained his self-control almost immediately. His habitual scientist's mistrust made him suspect that he too must have felt, by induction, by consent of his nervous system, the influence of the strong hallucinatory state of those two. As if he had seemed to see the cradle rocking and jerking, which he could see quite well was now still, with the baby inside quietly sleeping, now that his attention was drawn from the extraordinary phenomenon of the ghost personification. He approached, with a sense of spite against himself for that backwards jump at the sound of the rough voice that had nearly run him over, and imperiously responded, Stop it! I order you! He had put such force of will into his expression that the command should have asserted its authority over the woman's nervous excitement, should have overcome it, he thought. The long and sardonic laugh that immediately replied to I order you shook him, made him hesitate for an instant. Stop it, I order you, he responded with greater force. Ah, you want to be the third. Poison him too? You lie, wickedly. Mongeri didn't have to restrain himself from responding like with a living person. And the already slightly disturbed lucidity of his mind, notwithstanding the efforts he made to retain an attentive and impartial observer, all of a sudden became very upset when he felt 2 blows to his back by an invisible hand, and in the same instant he saw a gray, semi-transparent hand appear in front of the light, almost made of smoke, that contracted and relaxed its fingers rapidly, growing thinner as though the heat of the candle's flame were making it evaporate. Do you see? Do you see? Georgie asked him. There were tears in his voice. Suddenly the phenomenon stopped. Louisa woke up from her trance, almost as if she were waking from a natural dream, and looked around the room, questioning her husband and Mongeri with a brief nod of her head. Lelio and Mongeri questioned themselves, in turn, bewildered by the sense of serenity, or better, liberation that eased their breathing and returned their heartbeats to normal. No one dared to speak. Only a faint cry from the baby made them run anxiously towards the cradle. The baby wailed and wailed, struggling under the oppression of something that appeared to aggravate his mouth and impede his cries. Suddenly this phenomenon stopped too, and nothing more happened. In the morning, as he was leaving, Mongeri was thinking not only that scientists were wrong not to want to study up close those cases that coincided with popular superstition, but he repeated to himself, in his mind, what he had told his friend 2 days ago. I wouldn't marry a widow for all the gold in the world. As a scientist he had acted admirably, leading the experiment until the end without minding at all if, in case burning the corpse of Louisa's first husband hadn't worked, his reputation with his colleagues and with the public had to suffer. Although the experiment had confirmed the popular belief, and since the day that the remains of the corpse had been burned, the phenomena had completely ceased, to the great relief of Lelio Giorgi and his good wife Louisa. In its relation not yet published, Mongeri had proved unable to be entirely sincere. He hadn't said, "These are the facts, and this is the result of the remedy." The claims of popular superstition were right in their negation of science. The vampire died completely as soon as his corpse was burned. No, he had placed many ifs, many buts in the smallest circumstances, had shown off the words hallucination, suggestion, nervous influence many times in his scientific reasoning, in order to confirm what he had confessed previously, that is, that even intelligence is a matter of habit, and that having to change his opinion had annoyed him. Most curious is that he did not prove to be more coherent as a man. He who had proclaimed, "I wouldn't marry a widow for all the gold in the world," later married one for much less, a 60,000 lira dowry, and to Lelio Giorgi, who had naively said, "But how? You?" he replied, Right now, not 2 atoms of the first husband's corpse exist. He's been dead 6 years. Without realizing that, in saying this, he was contradicting the author of the scientific memoir An Alleged Case of Vampirism. That is, he himself. End of A Vampire. Recording by Aaron O'Rourke.